You felt pleasure. But soon after, the emptiness came, the tiredness, the feeling that you lost something, and you don't even know what. No, this is not normal. You have been drained. Your essence has been delivered. Carl Jung already warned, when man surrenders to desire without conscience, he loses his soul gradually. Focus out, your soul in silence. Stay until the end. Do you feel you are always tired? Even sleeping well? Does your mind look heavy, without direction, anxious, scattered, and with the constant feeling that your life is locked? My name is Layert, and this is Gods of Semen. Here, we don't talk about seminal retention as fashion or internet challenge. We speak as men who understood that semen is consciousness, vital energy, inner domain. This practice is the key to unlocking your mental, physical, and spiritual power. After years immersed in scientific studies, older spiritual traditions, and my own personal transformation, I discovered a path that no system wants you to know. Seminal retention is the reconnection with its true strength. If you have already felt lost, without purpose, emotionally weak, or spiritually erased, find out. This is not who you are. It's just the reflection of poorly directed energy. And that changes now. Stay with me until the end of this video, because I will reveal you truths that no one has ever told you, and that can turn the key to your life. And if you feel that this call is for you, subscribe now on the channel, activate the bell of notifications, and come to be part of this movement of men who have decided to become masters of themselves. This journey begins now. There is an exhaustion that no doctor explains, a tiredness that goes beyond meat. Many men experience this soon after the apex of pleasure. They feel empty, scattered, exhausted, and they don't know why. This exhaustion is not just muscle, it is energetic. After orgasm, the body seems to be delivered, but it is the soul that silently retreats from the field of presence. What should be connection becomes drainage. You not only lost semen, lost vitality, clarity, and inner strength. The energy that comes out of you at climax is not any energy. It is the same one that keeps you creative, which inspires you to act, which makes you look in the mirror firmly. This substance, which so many traditions call prana, chi, or simply life force, carries much more than DNA. It carries purpose. Each time you deliver you without conscience, you abdicate from your personal power. This energy was fuel. You have turned into grey. And here is the mistake that shapes an entire generation, believing that pleasure always means connection. Many live believing that the sexual act alone is a symbol of intimacy, of real union. But the truth is that most modern sexual connections are just shocks of loneliness. Two bodies trying to fill themselves without understanding the void that moves them. There is no cure when pleasure is just discharge. There is no love when the soul is not present. And there is no energy when all you do is empty yourself to feel something for a few minutes. It is at this point that sex is no longer celebration and becomes sabotage, an involuntary ritual of self-destruction masked by seconds of pleasure. Modern man, following this cycle without reflection, disconnects himself from his original strength, living in continuous fall, not realizing that what empties him is exactly what he seeks most: feeling of being alive. Carl Jung, a deep explorer of the human psyche, warned that sexual desire, when unconscious, becomes a force that enslaves. Instead of being an expression of life, it becomes prison. He called it sexual shadow, that hidden part of the man who acts on impulse, who seeks pleasure without realizing the internal holes he tries to cover. This shadow, when not integrated, silently dominates the masculine soul. She guides clicks, decisions, meetings, and addictions. And while man believes he is in control, he is actually servant of his own lack. Within the archetypal structure that Jung proposed, many men live today under the archetype of the servant of pleasure. That is, they are not owned by themselves. They live to seek the next stimulus, the next woman, the next orgasm. Their decisions are shaped by instincts, not by vision. Their goals are diverted by fantasies, not by purpose. And what's worse, they believe that this incessant search is freedom, when in fact it is submission, disguised as choice. Jung also reveals a hard truth about sex. He is mostly unconscious projection. This means that in the act, man is not connecting with the royal woman in front of him, but with internal ghosts. He may be seeking, unknowingly, the figure of the mother, lack of affection, welcoming, emotional nutrition, or it may be trying to redeem yourself from blame, trauma, sins. Sex then transforms into an unconscious ritual of salvation. But like all salvation without consciousness, it ends in frustration. This cycle, desire, projection, orgasm, empty, is what Jung describes as a psychic prison. Man does not live the present, only repeats internal patterns that does not recognize. And it is at this point that he loses access to the soul, because while serving in the shadow, you will not be able to access the light. The soul does not scream. It only leaves when it is not heard. And that is why many, even surrounded by pleasure, feel increasingly far from themselves. There is a kind of death other than to the heart, but it paralyzes the soul. Many men, in surrendering to orgasm as if it were liberation, do not realize that they are participating in a silent ceremony of inner dismissal. After the climax, silence is not only physical, it is spiritual. The feeling of being dead inside, losing the shine in the eyes, of disconnecting from something bigger. This is not a coincidence. It is the mourning of essence that was expelled without conscience. This emptying goes beyond the body. It is disconnect with the spirit. When man surrenders to unconscious ejaculation, he cuts the wire that connects him to his center. Therefore, soon after the pleasure comes the numbness, the confusion, the loss of presence. The mind disperses, the body surrenders, the energy dissolves. What could be alchemy becomes waste. Pleasure becomes a break. The older spiritual traditions of different parts of the world call this phenomenon loss of prana, the vital energy that sustains being. In Tao, it's Qi. In the Tantra, it is Kundalini that disperses instead of climbing. In shamanism, it is the soul that goes away. In all of them, orgasm is not light, it is a portal. And depending on how it is crossed, it can strengthen you or tear you. Each time you surrender without direction, you fragment yourself. And fragmented, you do not lead, do not create, do not guide. Just react, search, run after something you lost unknowingly. This is the symbolic death that so many live and do not even realize. Because today, dying spiritually after pleasure has become normal. But what is common is not necessarily natural. And the man who wants to regain his precise strength, first, to recognize that the price of unconscious pleasure is the loss of himself. The Tantra that circulates in the Western world is a caricature. Reduced to extended pleasure techniques, sensual massages, and promises of mystical orgasms, it has become a product, not wisdom. But the true Tantra is brutally different. It was not created to satisfy the body. It exists to dominate the soul. The tantric practitioner no longer seeks pleasure. He seeks power over himself. And this path begins with control, not delivery. At the center of tantric practice is the principle of containment. Orgasm, contrary to what is taught in modern courses, should not be released. It must be retained, redirected, transformed. Retention is not repression, it is transmutation. When sexual energy does not go out, it rises. And when climbing, it not only activates superior energy centers, it expands consciousness, which could be just pleasure. It becomes enlightenment. This inner explosion of power, called orgasm without discharge, is one of the greatest secrets of the true Tantra. That's when the body ends, but the semen remains untouched. The fire rises, the heart opens, the mind silences. There is no loss. There is multiplication. The accumulated energy runs through the subtle channels of the body and arouses capacities that were asleep. clarity, intuition, magnetism, presence. The goal of the real Tantra is that the practitioner learns to raise this energy to the heart. And that changes everything. When sexual energy comes to the heart, it purifies itself. It turns into compassion, leadership, into service. There is no need to complete the act with ejaculation. Pleasure is no longer escape and becomes meditation. And the man who learns this is no longer a slave to his instincts. He is lord of himself, because those who dominate their sexual energy dominates their reality. From the most remote times, the great spiritual masters have understood something that modern man forgot. Ejaculation is not just a biological act, but a spiritual event. In various sacred traditions, monks, shamans, and yogis avoid the release of semen, not by moralism, but for wisdom. They know that this substance carries in itself a divine spark, a code of light, a core of consciousness. Do you feel you are ready for something bigger, but you don't know where to start? Your spiritual awakening may be just a distance decision. I present with honor my new book, Alchemy of the Gods, a deep and transformative work on Kundalini, crystalline oil, and true spiritual liberation. More than knowledge, this book is a map for your personal rise. Learn how to activate your sleeping divine energy. Discover the forgotten codes of the spiritual body. Arouses clarity, inner strength, and alignment with its purpose. Available in physical, digital, and audiobook format, so you can study, listen, or carry this wisdom with you wherever you are. No matter what your lifestyle, knowledge is accessible. Get right now by the link in the description or in the fixed comment. This is the call. Time is now. But first of all, I have a novelty that you didn't expect. You asked, and I answered. The definitive audiobook has arrived for those seeking discipline, vital energy, and true male evolution. Semen Retention, Success Path, with over 2 hours of unprecedented content, directly addressing the 6 fundamental pillars of seminal retention. How to restore your mental focus, how to transmute desire into productivity, how to align body, mind, and spirit with sacred sexual energy. This audiobook is the key that was missing for its total reconstruction. What's more, when you buy now, you get a 30% unique discount on the ebook. The Art of Semen Retention for Men, with 20 practical and deep pages over advanced techniques for spiritual elevation, emotional balance, clarity of purpose. All this available now on the description link and the fixed comment. In Tantric Hinduism, semen is seen as ojas, the luminous substance that sustains the brightness of the mind and vitality of the body. In Taoism, he is cultivated as jing, the primordial essence that, when preserved, expands life and arouses higher skills. And even in the Christian tradition, there are subtle signs. The texts that exalt celibacy, the prophets who fasted from carnal pleasure, the apostles who silently kept fire in. Everything points to the same code. To keep the semen is to keep the light. The Bible, Tantra, and Tao say the same, albeit in different languages. They talk about keeping the flame on, the internal temple, about the lamp oil that cannot be exhausted. In all of them, there is a sacred convergence. Man's body is a spiritual address, and sexual energy is his most powerful offering. When this offering is thrown away without consciousness, the temple empties. What these scriptures reveal, and what is rarely taught, is that sex can be a portal or prison. It all depends on what is done with energy. If she is wasted, she sinks the man. But if she is retained and sublimated, she raises him. Therefore, the ancients did not run away from sex, but consecrated it. And by consecrating it, they found that the most powerful energy is not in the act itself, but in the choice of where it will be directed. And this choice today still belongs to you. We live in an era where everything that shines is sold as truth. And among the greatest myths supported by modern culture is that constant sex and without retention is synonymous with health, freedom, and fulfillment. The pleasure industry feeds this belief as an invisible addiction, and the ordinary man, without realizing it, becomes a prisoner. Pornography, masturbation, and empty relationships are presented as an expression of freedom, when in reality, they are instruments of emotional and energetic drainage. Pornography is one of the most effective weapons in this prison. It kidnaps the brain's dopamine system, causing man to be satisfied with illusions while his real life collapses. There is no connection, no touch, no soul, just pixels and stimuli that activate the same chemical response as heavy drugs. With each click, the mind gets dressed, the energy is dispersed, and the pleasure becomes a scream. What was supposed to be pleasure becomes dependence. Dopamine, a pleasure neurotransmitter, is manipulated by this system to turn men into stimulus servants. The more you seek you without conscience, the more you become her slave. The false intimacy of networks, videos, casual encounters, everything reinforces a cycle where pleasure is never enough. And men who should be leaders become relief hunters. They do not live, just consume. And behind this compulsion, there is a secret never said. Unconscious orgasm is an escape. I escape pain, loneliness, lack of purpose. Many do not ejaculate because they are horny. Ejaculate because they want to silence the inner scream. They want to escape the existential emptiness, even for a few seconds. But this relief charge is expensive. Because every time it runs away from itself by pleasure, the soul distances itself more. And the man, little by little, becomes just a body. No light, no direction, no power. Not every emptying is the end. There is a way back. There is a way to bring together the pieces of the soul that have been lost in moments of unconscious pleasure. But this requires more than physical rest, requires consciousness, discipline, and intention. The process of spiritual recovery after orgasm begins when man recognizes that his vital energy has been drained. This is the first sign of lucidity. To realize that something broke inside, that the force has fallen, that the brightness went out. Symptoms are clear: lack of focus, loss of magnetism, absence of firmness in the look, irritation without reason, and a strange sense of distance from itself. At these times, the body may seem healthy, but the spirit is collected. And to bring you back, you need to act accurately. The first measure is respiratory rituals. Deep breathing techniques, such as fire breathing or alternating breathing, help rekindle internal fire by pulling the energy back to the center. In addition, there are practices that function as a soul bath, a space of collection, silence, and internal focus. It can be a fasting meditation, a cold bath with the intention of purification, or a reading of sacred texts in full presence. What matters is that consciousness returns to the axis. May the body understand that energy needs to be gathered, does not disperse, and that pleasure is no longer sought as an escape, but as an expression of a clean and whole spirit. This reconditioning transforms sexuality. Instead of continuing draining, man learns to sustain. He observes the desire arise and, instead of surrendering, breathes it. He feels the desire to surrender to the easy pleasure, but chooses the dignity of retention. And so, little by little, he is no longer hostage to impulses and is again king of the temple itself. Because recovering is not just healing from what was lost, it is reborn with the strength of those who now choose. The word celibacy was distorted by centuries of moralism and repression. But conscious celibacy, when practiced with spiritual understanding and not guilty, is one of the most powerful weapons of man's reconstruction. It is not about abstaining from pleasure for shame or denial, but of preserving your energy for higher purposes. It is domain. It is sovereignty. It is the choice of not wasting your life force in exchanges that do not rise. When a man decides, on his own will, retain his sexual energy, something begins to reorganize within him. In a few days, the mind gains clarity. Thoughts become more targeted. Procrastination decreases. The body seems to carry more electricity. The voice gains firmness. The presence imposes itself. The look magnetizes. This is not magical. It is the return of the essence that was once foolishly dripping by gout. This magnetism is real. It does not depend on appearance, status, or beautiful words. It is a vibration that emanates from the inside, noticeable even in silence. The energy that was previously lost begins to accumulate in the highest energy centers. The heart warms up, the will intensifies, the intuition sharps, and man begins to walk with another stance, one that inspires respect, not by effort, but by nature. There are numerous historical accounts of spiritual masters, warriors and leaders who understood this secret. Nikola Tesla avoided sex to conserve her creative energy. Mahatma Gandhi practiced celibacy as a path of moral strength. Taoist monks accumulated sexual energy as part of the cultivation of spiritual immortality. It wasn't about fear of sex. It was about knowing exactly what it cost. In practicing the controlled celibacy, man does not escape desire. He transcends him. He does not disconnect from life. He reconnects himself to purpose. And over time, he realizes that what he sought in the bodies of others already existed within him: power, presence, peace. It was only buried by addictions and distractions. Now he escaped, rediscovered, and remembered. There is a kind of man who is not moved by desire, but by direction. He is not dragged on impulses, he commands them. This is the archetype of the retainer warrior. He who, dominating his sexual energy, turns his body into a temple, his mind into a sword, and his shield presence. He doesn't have to prove anything. Your silence imposes, your gaze weighs, your energy precedes your words. This man knows that controlling instinct is to master the world, because everything that tries to control man, vices, distractions, seductions, enters the sexual instinct. When he closes this door, he disarms the system. Nothing more captures, nothing more weakens him. He walks between chaos without being dragged by him. His internal domain makes him free where others are slaves. The energy it retains is not stopped. She becomes converted. It becomes vision, clarity, absolute focus. Your projects advance. Your words gain weight. Your actions have an impact. He doesn't run after it. He attracts. Not because it is beautiful, rich, or charismatic, but because it carries something that few have: energy density. He is full. And who is full becomes a gravitational center. The voids orbit around him. This warrior doesn't have to play to be felt. Its presence communicates strength, decision, and mystery. Other men respect him. Women perceive him. Children watch him in silence. Animals trust. Because the energy it carries is ancestral, primitive, and pure. It is the energy of life that has not been wasted, but kept, cut, and reinstated. It is the energy that arouses forgotten archetypes. And where this man passes, he lights what was erased, just because he exists. After all, the question is not if you feel pleasure. The real question is, what are you delivering in return? In each unconscious sexual act, there is an exchange that goes beyond the physical. You deliver time, delivery focus, delivery energy. But above all, you may be delivering your soul to crumbs of emotional validation, for a few minutes of affection, for a touch that does not heal, for a look that doesn't see who you are really. Many men lie down, not because they want the woman in front of them, but because they want not to feel alone. They seek passing affection to fill old holes. They make sex a crutch for the injured ego, for the self-esteem shaken, for the absence of purpose. But each time this delivery happens without conscience, it has a price, a spiritual price. Because the more you say to be accepted, farther you get yourself. The constant need for validation is the sweetest poison. The desire to be dear, desired, necessary. All this can make you deliver the only thing that should be inviolable, your vital energy. And the world will not warn you. On the contrary, it will applaud while you fragment, It will call freedom, experience, maturity. But deep down, you know, you're getting lost, not meeting. Liberation begins the moment you stop wasting yourself. When you look at the desire and ask, does it strengthen me or empty me? Does that honor me or reduce me? Does this connect me to my mission or move away from it? At this moment, something inside you changes. The soul, which once recoiled in silence, once again occupies the chest. The presence is established, and the man who arouses from this illusion is no longer the same, because now he knows. The real pleasure is knowing that you have not sold yourself, neither for love, nor for fear, nor for need. If you continue to deliver your energy without conscience, how many days you will wake up without strength, without direction, feeling that something inside you died and no one noticed? Perhaps what is missing is not motivation, no luck, but the dominion over yourself. The man who does not control his own fire will always be controlled by everything around. Now is the time to break this cycle. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell. And watch the next recommended video here, because it will show you what is keeping you from becoming the man you were born to be.